Okay, we're recording.
All right.
Let's get this going. Just don't kill this.
All right. Thanks, Andre, for having me. So anyway, as Andre said, my name is Lennart Andersson. I'm originally from Sweden. Been in the United States since 1993 in New York City. I've been since. That's fine. You're recording it. That's good. That's good.
So that's all right. Actually, it turns out evidence shows it's just one of those things. Evidence shows that audiences don't want to see some introductory guy read the bio of the speaker, because we can all read. So I won't do that. But Leonardo is my old BIM guru. 90% of what I know I've learned from him, and he taught me that it's basically all about the workflow and introduced all that kind of fun stuff for me. So when Lennart said he was going to present something, it's going to be all about workflow, I got really excited because it's one of the most important things, because that's where we lose so much time and money. And that's why I keep pestering to show up.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I've been working in New York since 2010, and I think, and I am the director for virtual design construction operation for the LiRo group. So we are a 10-people team that are focusing later hard on really digitizing, bringing this industry into the 21st century. Sometimes it feels like you're not in the century of some project. Also a professor at Pratt Institute. We teach studios how to bring people together, because I think that's one of the key things. Architects, construction managers, and facilities managers to actually have them work together, which doesn't really happen in the real world that well, I think. And it's amazing what you can do if you see that as one team. And I think technology can be that connector, because it creates transparency, understanding, if it's used correctly. I think that's one of the big lessons with BIM and talking workflow. How you do things, how you set things up and manage is so important with BIM, because I think there's been a lot of bad cases of BIM where owners, people have given BIM a bad rep because it's not being done correctly, and you can create a huge mess. Let's see here, next slide. So I just want to show what I started out in 1998 using ArchiCAD. I've just been looking back a little bit in my own history, because I've been doing this for a while, but like 21 years ago, that it was possible to do BIM back then. And my first Revit project was the Lincoln Center Theater in New York City. This was Revit 2.0, I believe. I started using one, so it's 2001. We started in ArchiCAD, and then Revit came out, and I was like, this is the way to go. And we started modeling that and actually doing ductwork coordination back then. And I was thinking, within 4 or 5 years, the whole industry is going to use BIM 100%. There's no way you're going to use CAD after this. And I feel there's still a lot of offices are one leg in CAD, one leg in BIM and Revit and so forth. So it's just funny looking back, like that, it still kind of looks the same. Revit. Yes, you can see there are a lot of issues that we found there, So it was a lot of big stuff in this tight rehearsal space on the Lincoln Center Theater. It's a phenomenal building. It was a lot of fun working. Well, my first project in New York City. So, not 20 or 19, 18 years later, we're still having challenges with implementing the technology across the board. And we're seeing, so my team, we're sort of vertically integrated. We have architects, we have engineers, we have construction managers, and now even facilities management in-house that we're doing, and we're finding there's exponential savings. I mean, in certain areas, we can save 90% time, automation of drawing generation, but all the most important thing is the data that we're really harvesting and work with. So, but as I mentioned, it's also exponential complexity if not managed properly, and I think that's what happens in many cases. What we're noticing, looking at most architecture firms, the eye in the BIM is not really considered at all. The goal is really creating drawings and rendering, which is not, I understand why that is, but I think there's a lot of missed opportunities. And I think it's starting to happen. More people that learns programming and using Dynamo in Revit, things like that. So you can actually start becoming aware of the power of these tools from a data perspective. And I think that a big part there is during construction, it's kind of all about data. And the weird thing in the construction industry, I'm seeing, they're not data people that are working there. So I think it's a way of connecting this stuff together is what we're focusing on now. And we call it VDCO, Virtual Design Construction. And we added operations 2 years ago because we're working a lot for owners and implementing this kind of stuff for agencies in New York. And the real beneficiaries of them are actually, if they operate their own buildings, so forth, there's so much they can do with the data coming out of this. But if it's just a disorganized mess of data that's coming at them, they don't know what to do with it. So it's all about how to organize that data. And, talk about digital twin. So it's really connecting the virtual and the real together. Because now we have the digital twin, but it's connected to reality? Not really in most cases. The moment you hit the construction site, they're starting to have models in the field and things like that, but the whole thing of really connecting it to the day-to-day, the inspections, the installations, and so forth, it's getting there, and it's coming really quickly, and I'm very excited about that. And one thing we realize is the different lenses, right? Design and architect look at something in a certain way. The MEP look at it in a certain way. All the different consultants have their way of looking at the same project, but they want something different out of it. Same thing, contractors and owners and all these people. So you have a list of the people. If you do planning, design, project support, cost estimators, schedulers, there's so many people involved on a project, and they have their thing they want to get out of it, right? And the trick is, like, how do you get them all to work off the same data source and make it work? And so we're standardizing the data, the underlying data for this stuff, and it works when it's standardized, but there isn't any standard out there. So that's one thing we're trying to get to. It's like, can we agree on some sort of data standards here? I think, like, what I'm focusing my career right now is the delivery points between, because that's where the inefficiencies really, really happen. From planning, design, and procurement, depending on what kind of delivery model you have. But this is the sort of traditional common one, especially in New York. It goes to bid, and the contractor does it, the handover and operations. In many ways, it's like you start from scratch every single time, And the bigger the project is, the bigger chaos there is. I mean, we're involved in some massive project, and it's just baffling that there's no connectors between the different phases. And this is sort of the mission statement of my group, making it easier for the whole team, every person. But this really comes down to people in the end. How do you get people to work together, communicate? You understand the problems and communicate that. And that's what one of the problems in this industry is. It's hard to identify the issues, So I've been with LiRo since 2000. I've been on, over 100 projects now. We're talking about a lot of projects. We're working on things right now. We have massive, this is a snapshot, but what's just very close to all the different infrastructure, train station, massive, dollars, hospitals, schools, police, fire stations, tunnels, bridges. Like, the data structures are the same. They're the same. Maybe how you organize a tremendous amount of them, And we're finding the automated modeling from Revit Chapter is a game changer in New York, because New York, we're dealing with a lot of existing buildings. We're dealing with a lot of complexity, and the problem with them has been the reality that is that you trust them all, and if you couldn't trust it, really useful for action, but dealing with operation, we have and small that is it, you know. So I was gonna go next. So I talked previously here at the reducers about it, but after that I go into detail. But I think what's interesting, we've been involved for 7 years now on this project, the biggest infrastructure project in the United States, and it may be the biggest in the world. I was told by others that it was 2 years ago, so maybe it's a bigger project out there. I don't know, but it's a massive amount of models to be connected. And this is one of those lessons learned that we realized we had to organize ourselves, and it was this complete chaos. And it's working really, really well. And we have the whole project, 6 models, and we shoot it into different software. But the whole thing of standardizing was very, very, very important because there's over 150 models, Revit models at this point, this project. It's kind of nuts, but and also just talking about finding similarities. We're dealing with pretty much every agency in New York for FTA, CUNY, DASNY, the Department of Design and Construction, EDC, the Economic Development Corporation. You see the same problem everywhere of communication, documentation, the fragmentation and things like that. And we're running pilots with all these organizations. You realize, like, when you actually connect yourself, a lot of these issues go away, and we can actually start seeing what the real problems are. So it's really, form and data. That's what we're looking in my group. Like, this is really where we're creating, and BIM is about that. Right, the geometry and the data you logging in, and the way our approach now is using Revit as the form and data repository, connecting it to a database, and then not all data needs to live in the Revit model, but we're creating connectors, and this is where it gets really, really interesting, because we can shoot data back to Revit, spit out graphics, reporting, and things like that, and we're being able to use automation as an interesting tool. And what makes Revit unique is that you can create drawings from the model. There's not many other software you can do that so well and still have 3D. So let's see. So, but one thing we realized, we can't do this, and we're not going to model everything in-house. So, like for example, today, VDC and Tunnels, we're a project now, we wrote the standards. So it's sort of writing the data standards, writing the breakdowns for, here's the video, but, of to do it in a simple way, write standards, because this National BIM standard, have anyone seen that National BIM standard? And have anyone read them? No, exactly. So our approach is really to shrink it down to the bare, minimum. So it's actually people who read this stuff, and we created a website instead of a binder, right? And you can browse it through, and there's real examples, tutorials, and things like that. So people actually engaging, learning this stuff. And we find it like people actually start wanting to read these things, because it's not just fun, it's actually illustrating, and you're actually learning something by doing it. So we're sort of digitizing all the bridges and tunnels in New York, and we're saving them tremendous amount of money. It's their budget for the next 3 years is $2 billion. So it's a drop in the bucket, the stuff we're doing. But really, using Revit in the correct way, we're shooting it in, talking visualization into game engines, and then using the data to actually do phasing, putting cars in, communicate very, very quick. And we realize we can turn around some of these things in a day because we have the models set up, we're organized, spit them out. And obviously, using game engines for virtual reality, for this particular science, actually driving through has a value. It's not just fun, but they actually can review how do you experience this in 40 miles an hour and so forth. So it's the stuff around Revit now that is really becoming where people are interfacing, and I think that, to have to send people to training to be able to be part of the BIM process is not going to work. Because you have so many people involved, and people leave and go. So we're finding we have to make it simple for people to actually contribute data to the models. So that's where we started to develop now applications on top. So in the field, you can then import statuses, give feedbacks, take pictures, shoot that back, and also connecting to reality capture and so forth. That's going to jump to next. And then we have written the BIM specifications. And it's a very, very important aspect, the rules of the project, both for the designer, but also for the contractor, how they're going to run the job. And it's really breaking down the key component in Revit, the settings, things like that, without getting too expensive. But the key things that we find is really, really important, So we go to here. One thing we have, some guys from Navis scanning. We actually acquired one of their scanners because we do so many big projects. And what's cool with their technology is that you walk around and scan. And we found a tenfold, increase in the amount of scanning we can do. So we can do it 10 times faster than with the tripod scanners. So we can scan massive areas. And this actually is a smaller piece of, now it's the whole campus that we have scanned. And then we can interact with that and really look at it. And it's a game changer. And we can quickly then generate models from this. What is really interesting with this also, I think, is this is Snug Harbor out in Staten Island that I didn't know anything about before we started this project. But that it becomes a historical record as well, because they're going to got to renovate this place. And this was where the sailors used to live when they were retired back in the day. Now it's going to be art studios and really cool spaces. But so how many people here use scanning in their practice? So say around half, right? And I think, one of the things we're realizing that when you get that in and get a workflow in, it just elevates the standard of your project. And now we start using the scans and some of the viewers as a way of actually, so it's not about the point cloud only, but it's about the images and how you start interacting with the scan models and connecting that back to Revit and back and forth, So I go to next slide here. Yeah, so I guess I talked about this a little bit, but what we're seeing, though, the scanning and generation of models, and now it's a pretty manual process still, but there's a lot of tools coming out that I heard about, and I mean, some you can already do some automated model, but I don't think it's there yet, but it's coming where you can do more feature extraction from the model, so you can cut down the modeling time of existing condition tremendously, and then obviously spitting out drawings. And we're using automation tools in our office where especially for high-rise buildings, that automatically create all the floor plans, all the sheets for those plans and occupy that. So say 40-story building, we can set that up really, really quickly and then create many, many more drawings than a typical drawing set is. We create what's called an asset management drawing set in design. So all the assets are already tagged and color-coded, so the facilities management department, we give it to them. You guys fill out and see how you want this information. And it really changes the game, because traditional drawing sets are split up by the trade. And you realize the end user don't care about the trade. He cares about, is this equipment, how is that connected, how does it work for me? So it's really overlaying everything within and color-coding and making it easier for the end user. So, as I'm saying, it's finding ways. We're using different apps for construction tracking, for inspections of existing facilities, facilities management tools, slapping QR codes on equipment as it's being installed, linking that back to the model. Also, there's the scanner where we can then do massive facilities super quick. It's a website. So our clients don't need to install a single software. They need a connection to a web browser. They can use all these tools, right? So it's really making it easy for the end users to be part of the BIM process, because I think that's one time where it starts falling apart out in the field, because like the moment they have to install Revit or other costly software, it's like they're not part of the process anymore. So what I said, yeah, it needs to be standardized, and we're finding when you do that, it has to be self-organizing in many ways with these softwares and things. So it doesn't, like you push a piece of paper behind. That's often what I see a lot of projects go, but it sort of should guide itself as far as how things are input in the model, the right people that you don't need training and stuff like that. So simplicity is like the guiding for everything we do and develop. So we call this is a lot of branding, so this is from a general presentation, but we call this thing Form D all our apps that we're developing now, because we create forms, we're creating data, organizing it in a very easy way, and it's sort of filling out forms as well in the field, and using the graphical interface that is simplified so they can input data into the Revit model in the end. So there's tremendous amount of work there on how do we organize that in Revit. Let's see here. So they did a snappy commercial for the American Society of Civil Engineers here, so I want to show. But like, what is interesting is the level of detail on the models now. It's existing from scanning into models, every nuts and bolts is fulfilled as the model. And it works. It used to be 5 years ago we couldn't do this because the model would be too funky. It's all about how we organize it to break it down. But then we can then do the true digital twin, the simulation for parsing, even gravity simulations and stuff like that. And then having apps on that. So we're running a pilot right now for the MTA bridges and tunnels. We scanned the whole facility in a couple of hours. We scanned this, generates models, and coding it based on the system they're using. This is the universal bridge inspection format, but it codes it automatically. And this is a big deal. There's been millions of stuff. And now an app that this guy in the field just clicks and set the status. The amount of time they spent right now on pieces of paper, and they take pictures, and then they spend months trying to assemble this stuff. It's now completely automated. So you just go out in the field, set the statuses, and it color codes it based on the statuses, so you can communicate to people what needs to be fixed, what's critical, and so they can help the plan. This is one of their reports, right? On the left there. It's an enormous report. So we're digitizing that as well, and tying that back to the Naviscanner, where all the issues found get shot back into the viewer. And here someone can sit in their office and actually look at the issues and even measure them there. It's really, really cool stuff, because the BIM model is aligned with the scan model. So the scan model doesn't go away. It's interconnected with Revit, and the data in the inspection app gets shot back to Revit. Revit shoots the data back to here. So anyone can sort of virtually walk through the facility and understand what was the issue instead of traveling across the city to look at that crack, you know. So, and then we're working out, they're spending $28 million a year just on the design documentation. It's nuts. And these are existing facilities that even repairs on. We think that we can automate a lot of that stuff, so we probably can cut that down 80%. So save us actually repaying for this stuff every time we drive these bridges. I mean, tremendous amount of money, and in construction, use an app for fix them up. Yes, no, you know, because they have tremendous problems tracking their stuff, and this is really using the Revit capability of tagging and create drawings, you know, and it's really breaking it down to.
Oh, hi, Tamisa. How are you?
And
good.
So facilities
I called you because at some point, maybe a couple of months ago,
showing again.
you had gone on my website because you were interested in learning more about.
You can click on the PDF stats for the asset, and it actually pulls up this one. So it's really.
Do you remember?
Revit with connection to the site. So
yeah, this is
so.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
And, we're
finding in Revit it's a lot
we were doing a class that we teach
questions.
people to properties
Design,
and we work with the
construction, and operations.
how to do the business.
Where
You have filled out a survey and it said that you were interested. And I'm just wondering to see if have you done any real estate investing, or are you looking?
No, I haven't done the investing. I am still learning.
Okay.
You know, I just have to have knowledge because I don't want to go out there and be fumbling. So I'm still on the learning path before I start doing any of those things. Right.
What experience? Since when were you interested in doing real estate investing?
Well, I am interested in flipping.
the 0 point is somewhere in Pennsylvania. But what's nice with this is like you can actually then having so all the Revit models pops into the city. So we work in a sort of a city model now. All our projects are popping into place. And I think this is where things should be going, that you can submit to the building department and it pops into place. And you know, really that location where it is becomes very important because how does it relate to the surrounding infrastructure, to the city, and so forth. So yeah, what it is. So it's very Revit centric here. We break it down. We spend a lot of time setting up work sets. Again, work sets came out of Revit as a way of sharing and working together on a project. We are using that as a way of organizing how the projects are actually shot into other software. So I'll show some example of that. The categories, obviously, what something is, using the built-in functionality of Revit for that. The families and the naming and the types and instances. So sort of 5 levels we identified how we organize everything to answer what is it that is in my project. And then the relationships, that's very much the MEP side. The engineering systems, which an engineer cares about, the trades going to build it, and the functional system, which is the end user. This light or this fan is not working. It doesn't mean that it's the mechanical problem. It might be an electrical problem. How do you connect those things and so forth? So we are using Revit as that database to identify and visualize that for end users or for engineers and so forth. So the Revit set is really looking at, you know, I'm repeating myself maybe, the work sets, and it's, can I move this thing? The model breakdown for distribution, use sheets, automated documentation, parameters is the data set, and usually parameters can become very messy in Revit. If you can see some projects where it's just a long list. So we work there to kind of standardize that as much as possible because it can be a complete mess. Filters for conditional formatting we are using, and for design is obviously color code things of what it is. MEP sets we do are in color because why not in today's world? They're typically black and white because it's cheaper to print that on paper. But nowadays, why not do them in color so you can see if this return error or actually follow it much easier. So during construction, we use filters as a way of the statusing. Is it late, early? Is it complete? Is it not complete? Things like that. So we're using Revit models as dynamic living documents. That at nighttime we actually spit out PDF sets showing the latest conditions and so forth. And components and system, we have naming standards for that, so you can automate look at those things. So if you get those things down, you're good. Let's see, is it not going to this? Here. So I'm not going to go into complete detail, but we have a standardized thing with all the work sets we're using for all trades: civil, architecture, structure, mechanical, electrical, and so on. And by standardizing that, we can automate how we shoot them to different systems for clash detection during design and construction, and also all other systems. So we don't spit out one model. We spit out every work set as a different model, and then we assemble that again. because it gives us great control for automated clash detection. Also for cost estimation, we've automated that for some of our clients. So, you know, keeping this organization is tremendous amount of benefit. View creation, we have standardized all that, and we have architects, we have structural engineers, MEP, and construction drawings, coordination drawings. I probably have 500 different drawing types. So this is just a little snapshot of an Excel sheet we do. And it's way too much to like manually type in. So we actually build a plugin that automatically creates view templates in Revit. So we, you know, so it names the views. This is, oops, it just starts going by itself here. So it's creating that automation of okay, we're going to do an architectural set. It just spits out all the plans, ceiling plans, finish plans. Automatically, you start focus on the work. Same thing for MP and then moving into coordination and operations, facilities management. So if you would print our drawing set, it would be nuts how thick it would be. But we're using the linkage thing in Revit too. You already have built in Revit, you know, if you click on a level, you can go to that one plan, you know, so we actually create full interactive drawing sets where you can actually navigate around. There should be 3 clicks to go to any piece of your project. So you actually in the title block, you say, I should have had some example of that here. In the title blocks, you can click on what level you want to see, and it goes to the default floor plan there, and then you can go to what trade you want to see and things like that. So it's sort of using the built-in linkage in there, but automating that. So, and it's changing, like, so instead of virtually flipping drawing sheets, you're clicking as a more like a website environment. And it's a game changer. You like to find things much quicker that way, you know. So I think that was my, yeah, and then our parameters and so forth. But that was sort of the gist. I hope I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you. Any questions?
We're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
These are people who've been here a million times. They know what they're talking about. So.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. So
this is not an older group.
So what do you guys think about this? It's very interesting to hear, you know, because I think where I've become, I'm starting to look at it from the outside, architecture, MEP, all the different trades, because we do so much implementation for our owners now. But how Revit is used for coordination, for example, you know, it's any questions regarding this?
Are you using the live model? Cloud models or anything like that?
Oh, cloud models? Not for Revit, actually. No, yeah. We're shooting it out in the cloud, and they're trying different platforms. And I think that's one of the things we're saying, you know, as far as visualization. There's so much software out there. We're testing right now the cloud model, and you know, seeing what's the best environment to host in. One of our issues is that we deal with legacy agencies that are extremely paranoid about the cloud. So it's been very hard for us to either they might have some web environment that is so old and outdated. So instead of sort of doing it in-house and then posting the results or through an app, you know. So it's one of those things we're dealing with. We're very public client oriented. So you kind of drawn down to their technical level many times to start sharing information, you know. So that's why we, you know, you saying interactive PDFs, like anyone can read a PDF, but, you know, and then like the Navis viewer, it's a website environment, so it is sort of cloud based, but it's so we're getting there. I mean, I think that would be interesting to hear more, like how you guys use the cloud based collaboration.
You guys are not doing benefit.
We do for one project as a test, you know. So, well, we're actually developing some other solution we're looking at. So, the BIM 360 are very project based, we're looking very life cycle based for end users. And, you know, in BIM 360, you have to fill in what's the project sum, and what we're doing, we're not even a category in the drop down of what kind of consultant we are and things like that. So, but it's a very promising platform though. And my concern with BIM 360 is that they bought Assemble system, they bought PlanGrid now. Which one are they going to be using before we invest heavily in one platform, and then they say, no, we're actually going to reorganize here?
In the same state, they bought Navisworks, they bought Horizontal Glue.
Yeah.
And they're still kind of choosing whatever they want from either one, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
What Glue back in the day, what Glue was doing, was kind of Navisworks-ish.
Yeah, and we you know, you have the Forge platform, which Autodesk is, so the BIM 360 is sitting below. They keep changing that a lot. So we program something, and then something doesn't work, and we can't get an answer why it doesn't work. And our whole process is depending on it working. We can't wait for Autodesk to come back now. So we were like, let's wait until they really figure this out, and then we'll dive in when we can trust it. But right now, there's a weird bug that suddenly it's rasterized part of your drawing, and we're all working about being able to click on the data, and if part of it is rasterized, some are not, and they couldn't tell us why is that. So I'm Autodesk. Yeah, I'm a dual. It's love-hate relationship because 1 week is hate and 1 week is fun. You know? So. You know, at the same time, and I think these kind of cloud-based solution is really where it's, you know, the collaboration is happening. We're tremendously invested now in the security aspect, encryption, two-point encryption on passage, because we're doing bridges, tunnels, because it's not only the perception of the client, but there's active hacking going on all the time of getting your hands on infrastructure. And what we're nervous is about. These agencies are completely chaotic with the drawings. They can't even figure out what they have. So the threat level there of someone hacking their system is not that bad maybe, but if we have models that are easy to navigate, you can easily figure out how to go into a tunnel, and if you want to do sabotage or something like that. So that is an area we're working now with some security firms that actually involved with CIA and stuff like that to see can be encrypted in passage and things like that, and what's the performance. This is something we're looking at now because we're realizing not only from, you know, what the agencies know, but we are realizing the liability if someone hacks us and takes all this stuff. Like, yeah. So on the other side, we have some private clients, and we can't run with it there. So that's where we use 360. We're testing stuff and being able to do automated cost estimation. Is anyone doing cost estimation from BIM here? Isn't that kind of amazing? Cost estimation from BIM. Yes. At the same time, if you ask a cost estimator how they do cost estimation, it's crazy. Like they measure things, and it might have, you know, PDFs they are measuring and stuff like that. But we worked with one developer that do the same type of buildings. We automated all the concrete takeoff, all the steel, all the curtain wall panels, doors, partition. So we're 80% automatic. So as soon as we get the model, we run the processing, and they know the approximate cost for the project. It's really cool to see that you can do these things, you know. But it's that relationship with the client. They're sophisticated clients, so they ask us, we want to do automatic, so they paid us to do it. Yeah, no, it's all about people, right? And it's the team, the skill set, and it's sort of like the weakest link can really screw it up, you know, and that's the challenge that we're up against, you know. It's the full buy-in versus yeah. And I'm also seeing, especially on the agency, we have consultants that are actually making millions on inefficiency. And it's very hard to actually motivate them to change. If you got to save 80%, it means 80% less billable time if they're going to do their job in the same way. I mean, I tend to see it like, well, then you can get into energy analysis and really do more holistic designs. and actually have time for that. So it's an interesting discussion, this, because usually you don't have time to really, you just want to get the drawings out and, meet deadlines. I mean, are people experiencing that? Because it's interesting to hear, like, from the architect, are BIM saving you time or is it adding time? Yeah. Because I think, the old argument like BIM takes much longer time. I don't buy it. I don't see that I think we work 10 times faster in CAD. And I think it's how you do it that is very, very important. So, and have common standards. Some of the issues, like you get new people hired, you got to train them up, and you got to have like a simple system, and that's what I'm trying to break down, like the work size and standardize those things, and then you can really get savings. But So I think that's what I had. Some other questions? Am I like too fast?
No, 45 minutes.
All right, cool.
Give us a
Question.
Yeah.
How do you work with clients as owners and contractors who are building things in electronic versus paper? Because when people sit around the table, I've found they like to look at paper. And not all looking at individual screens or presentations. How do you deal with that?
So if I take our developer client, that is the most. So what we do, we print out the coordination drawing set. They color coded. Everything will trade on. So it's not separate drawings between mechanical, electrical. It's all like one drawing set. And then we have the screen to look at 3D. So 2D on paper. And we do have two screens. So one is 2D and one is 3D, because there's a lot of misconception. I think 3D is always better than 2D. And I tend to see it like, it's like Google Street View and Google Maps. You don't find your way through Google Street View. You find your way using the map, and that's your floor plan. And then you should be able to go to 3D to figure out how exactly the relationship. So, because I see a lot of software out there where it's, 3D is going to go and take, you're not going to need 2D anymore, and that's complete delusional, I think. Yeah, because plans are super fast. You see the relationships and things like that, because when you're in 3D, I don't know what's 2 rooms down here, so it's that.
You're not eliminating paper, you're paper and screens.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fusion, I think, is one doesn't completely, replace the other. But this is where automation needs to come in. Like, you need to be able to generate drawings quickly, so you're not adding your workload all the time. It's actually, you can go from this to this seamlessly, and that's where we still use Revit. I mean, it's really awesome at 2D, and it's still a 3D environment. So and I'm just amazed. There's not many softwares utilizing the 2D components. It's like 3D is always better, do you think? And I mean, we're toying now with HoloLens, and HoloLens 2 is coming out, where we've done experiments now overlaying on fade outs, for example, the floor plan or the partitions, for example, and you can see where it's going, and so that's going to start replacing the drawing set in some ways for layouts, because it's going to tell you where to put things and things like that, and also the automation of sequencing and things like that to build in, and that's what I think machine learning and artificial intelligence comes in, like the sequence how you build things, and it can tell you have to put this thing here first before you put in this other thing. So we're just like scraping on the surface on that, but I think HoloLens 2, we're very excited about that, because we did a lot of experimentation in HoloLens 1, and we got things to work, but it was not fast enough, and the resolution, there was some problem, but they're saying that, it's much faster, and so we'll see if it is what they promised it to be, and, but it's not, it has limitation too. It's sunlight, it's not too good, it's super cold, it's not going to work so well, so it's super hot, so you can't like just rely on a thing, and suddenly if it doesn't work in a certain environment, you can't do your work, So again, it's a combination, I think, for the foreseeable future. But it's interesting times, though. I mean, I think the whole part of documentation can be cut down, but it should be that you can run different scenarios and analyze your building much better, and actually do better design and things like that. Because what I find is interesting as an architect myself is, you know, how seldom you come back to your building that you designed. I mean, I am, and most architects probably, you finish your project and you're so sick of it, you never want to see it again. No, but I think it's an interesting thing. Like, why don't we go back and ask the owners, like, how do you experience this? Does it work for you? You know, because we're dealing with it now because we're dealing directly with owners, and the perception of, yeah, the architect does their thing, and here's like they did this thing, like, and that feedback loop, I think, should be really beneficial, you know, of what works, what doesn't work, you know. Because again, we design this stuff for the end user, hopefully, you know. Anyway, any other questions? Cool. I'll hand it over to Andre again.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Leonard. As usual, yeah, I'm a big fan, if you couldn't tell before. I even went to a thing. So yeah, let's wrap this up. What time is it? 7:20, so, you know, 10, 15 minutes, I need to wrap all of this up, and then let's find a bar and go downstairs and have a drink, everybody. Thank you, and then actually I want talking about the cloud. The June meeting, June 25th, will be on a rather simplistic level compared to what you were just talking about, but I only have a half hour, so it might be interesting if you have time to just, like, you know, tack on another 10 minutes, or Jason, right? Because I got about a half hour, 35 minutes, to get a little more nerdy about it and provide a little more info to this type of group.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Other than that, May 1st, Roger doing his funny What's New in Revit 2020. I'll see you then. Thank you.